what silence really says after disrespect. Have you ever been in a moment, just one breath away from snapping, where someone disrespected you so clearly, so sharply, that every fiber of your being screamed, "Say something!" And yet you didn't. Not because you were weak, but because you were wise. You see, in a world that praises the loudest voice and applauds instant reactions, there is something rare, something sacred, about the one who chooses restraint, the one who feels the fire rising but doesn't let it burn their house down. Some people will look at your silence and think it's surrender. They'll say, "Why didn't you defend yourself?" But let me ask you something. Does strength always roar? Does power always scream? No. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stay still. Because when someone insults you, mocks you, or tries to pull you into their storm, and you react without thinking, you hand over control. You allow their chaos to enter your calm. You let them sit in the driver's seat of your emotional life. And my friend, that's a cost too high. Picture this: a storm rages, lightning crashes, and everyone else is running for cover. But one person stands beneath the clouds, unshaken. That's what true composure looks like. It's not that they feel nothing. It's that they know what to do with what they feel. Reacting in the heat of the moment is not power. It's proof that you've been caught, like a fish that took the bait. And some people, oh, they're masters of bait. They say things just sharp enough, just personal enough, to see if they can get a rise out of you. Why? Because if they can make you lose your peace, they win. But when you stay quiet, when you breathe instead of bite, when you hold your dignity like a crown and walk away, you send a message so loud it doesn't need words. You don't have that kind of power over me. It's not about pretending the insult didn't hurt. Of course it stings. Of course you feel it. But the real question isn't, did it affect me? It's this: is this worthy of my energy? Because not every insult deserves a speech. Not every confrontation deserves a reply. And not every battle is yours to fight. Some are just distractions dressed up as justice. And if you chase them, you'll lose far more than you gain. So the next time someone throws words like darts, pause, step back, ask yourself, will their opinion of me change my truth? The answer is always no, because someone else's ignorance is not your identity, and their brokenness is not your burden. Choosing silence after disrespect isn't about letting things slide. It's about lifting yourself higher. It's about saying, I know who I am, and I don't need to shrink to prove it to you. Your silence doesn't mean you lost. It means you saw what the fight would cost, and you chose to walk away with your peace still intact. Because peace is power, and when you protect it, you protect everything worth building. Now perhaps you're wondering, how do I cultivate that kind of peace every day? How do I train myself not to react, but to respond with wisdom, with strength, with grace, even when the storm hits hardest? Let's talk about that next, because the silence is only the beginning. In the next part, we'll discover how to build an unshakable soul, one that stands firm even when the winds howl loudest. Are you ready to go deeper? The cost of reaction and the wisdom of restraint. Now here's what we don't always admit. There are people in this world who aren't looking for growth. They aren't trying to heal. They're not climbing. They're clinging, dragging others down to avoid the responsibility of rising themselves. And when you step into their chaos, when you react to their drama, even with good intentions, you lose something precious. You lose energy. And energy, my friend, is everything. It shapes how you feel, how you focus, how you move toward the life you're meant to build. But here's the hard truth. Your energy is limited. It's not some endless reservoir you can pour into every argument, every insult, every petty offense. You have dreams to chase, goals to accomplish, peace to protect. So why would you spend that limited energy trying to prove something to someone who doesn't even value your voice? Have you ever met someone who seems to feed off conflict? They stir the pot, toss the first stone, then stand back to watch the explosion. They're not interested in resolution. They're interested in reaction. They want to see you unravel. Why? Because it distracts you from the greatness you're walking toward. But when you stay silent, intentionally, maturely, powerfully, you rob them of their prize. You take the wind right out of their sails. And just like that, the storm begins to pass. Silence becomes your shield. It's not because you didn't feel the disrespect. You're human, you feel it all. But what you do next, that's where the power lies. Will you drain yourself in a moment that doesn't matter tomorrow? Or will you preserve your peace for a future that does? Because what most don't understand is this. The satisfaction of clapping back lasts only a few seconds, but the consequences of anger, of distraction, of lost focus can last much longer. That comeback might feel good in the moment, but will it change them? Will it open their heart? Will it make them suddenly see you for who you are? No, it rarely does. Most of the time it just gives them more fuel, more words to twist, more tension to feed. But when you respond with silence backed by focus, with success and composure, something happens. You take back the power. You leave them talking to themselves, and eventually they stop. Why? Because people only poke what moves. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding the fire. And a fire without oxygen always dies out. Now I know some will say, but I have to defend myself. And I hear you, I do. But sometimes defending yourself isn't about what you say. It's about what you don't let in. Self-respect doesn't always look like confrontation. Often it looks like knowing what's not worth touching. Some battles aren't lost, they're just beneath you. So next time someone disrespects you, ask yourself, does this deserve my peace? Is this worth the price of my focus? Because if the answer is no, walk away. Let your silence be your message. Let your growth be your reply. Let your focus be the answer they can't argue with. Because talk is cheap, friend. Words are easy, but you've got something better. You've got results. You've got vision. You've got purpose that doesn't waste time in the mud. And that leads us into something even deeper, because now that we understand how powerful silence is, how it protects your peace and preserves your focus, it's time we ask, how do we strengthen this silence from within? How do we build the kind of inner stillness that can stand steady, no matter how loud the storm outside gets? Let's find out together in the next part of this journey. Let your progress do the talking. You know what separates those who rise from those who remain stuck? It's not always talent. It's not always opportunity. It's often this, the wisdom to stay silent and the discipline to keep building. Because while some people spend their days defending themselves, arguing with critics, explaining their worth to doubters, chasing the approval of those who barely know their name, others, they just keep moving, quietly, intentionally, powerfully. And here's the truth you can't ignore. Your results will speak for you. Your growth will silence the noise. Your success will become the answer they never saw coming. The ones who stay caught in the cycle of back and forth, they get exhausted. Their energy gets scattered in every direction. But the ones who learn to guard their peace, they go further, faster. They rise while the rest are still arguing. Because silence, my friend, isn't surrender. It's strategy. Think of it. The greatest people who ever left a mark, visionaries, leaders, creators, they didn't waste their breath clapping back at every critic. They didn't fight every voice that told them they'd never make it. No, they let their work do the talking. They let consistency be their microphone. They let discipline be their reply. And that's exactly what you're called to do. You don't need to convince small minds of your greatness. Just be great. Just keep going. Let your quiet confidence unsettle those who tried to shake you. Because here's what happens next. They fall silent. The very ones who laughed at you, who said you didn't have what it takes. Once they see your progress, once they witness your success, they have no choice but to acknowledge what they can no longer deny. That's the power of silence, backed by action. Staying quiet after disrespect isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's energy management. Let them talk while you rise. Let them gossip while you grind. Because at the end of the day, your success will speak louder than your emotions ever could. But let's not sugarcoat it. Disrespect hurts. When someone mocks you, dismisses you, treats you like you're less, it stings. It makes you want to shout, to prove, to set the record straight. But pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this about me or is it about them? Because 9 times out of 10, it's not about you. It's a reflection of their brokenness, their own insecurity, bitterness, misery. It's spilling over. A bitter heart spreads bitterness. A small mind belittles others. A drowning soul tries to pull others down for company. And when you respond emotionally, when you take it personally, you're accepting a burden that was never yours to carry. That's why silence is so powerful. It says, I see what you're doing, but I won't be part of it. Your words may be loud, but they hold no weight in my life. You don't get to shake what you didn't build. Because those who disrespect others aren't after truth. They're after control. They want to feel superior. They want a reaction. And if you give them one, you feed the illusion. But when you stay silent, when you don't flinch, when you don't play their game, they're left with nothing but their own reflection. And that, right there, is what terrifies them most. Because the very pain they project onto others is the pain they're running from in themselves. And that's where we go next. Let's talk about how to build a spirit that refuses to be shaken, a soul so rooted that no insult, no lie, no attempt to provoke can pull you off your path. Because silence is just the beginning. Next, we step into unshakable identity. You don't have to prove what you already are. Sometimes people insult not because they're strong, but because they're scared. They throw stones not to expose your weakness, but to cover their own. They attack because if they don't, someone might finally see them for who they truly are, fragile, insecure, broken. So they hide behind harsh words. They use sarcasm as armor. They lash out, hoping to shift the spotlight away from their own pain. And here's the trap. When you argue with someone like that, when you try to explain yourself or demand respect from someone who doesn't even value themselves, you fall into their game. You can't make someone see what they refuse to acknowledge. You can't pull respect out of a heart that doesn't even know how to honor its own soul. The wisest thing you can do, walk away. Not in shame, not in silence of defeat, but in strength. Because you weren't placed here to spend your life convincing others of your worth. You were placed here to live that worth, to walk it out with grace, with quiet power, with unwavering focus. Some people will never respect you, no matter what you say, no matter how kind, how patient, how good you are. And you know what? That's okay. Because their respect is not your requirement. Their validation is not your fuel. Their opinion of you does not get to define your future. What defines you? It's how you carry yourself. It's the peace you protect. It's the way you keep moving forward even when they try to hold you back. So the next time someone tries to stir the fire in your soul, pause and remember, it's not about you. It never was. It's about them, their own emptiness, their own aching heart. Don't carry what was never yours to hold. Don't take their bitterness and wear it like a name tag. Stay quiet. Keep your peace, and let them deal with the weight of their own words. Because in the end, disrespect speaks louder about the one who gives it than the one who receives it. There's always that moment after disrespect, when your pride rises, your jaw clenches, your voice begins to rise within you, and you're standing at a crossroads. One path leads to instant reaction, sharp words, raised voice, a fierce reply. The other leads to silence. And while most will take the first path because it feels like power, the truth is, real power walks the other way. Because emotional reaction isn't strength, it's surrender. When you react without thinking, you're not winning, you're giving your control away. Dignity isn't found in how loudly you defend yourself, it's found in knowing when to walk away, knowing when a fight isn't worth it, knowing your peace is more valuable than your pride. There will always be people who try to pull you out of character. They'll push your buttons, test your patience, hope that you'll break. Because if they can get a reaction from you, they feel like they won. But what if you don't react? What if you don't flinch? What if you hold your peace like a shield and say, without saying a word, you don't have that kind of power over me? That, my friend, is real strength. Not the strength of noise, but the strength of restraint. The lion doesn't need to roar to prove who he is. He walks, and the jungle knows. Likewise, you don't have to respond to every insult to prove your worth. Your silence is a statement. Your stillness is resistance. And your restraint, it's the fireproof armor that protects your purpose. Because when you walk away with your dignity intact, you don't just avoid the fire, you rise above it. You stay in control of your story. You are not defined by one moment of weakness, but by the consistency of your strength. And the best part? When you hold your peace, you don't just quiet the enemy, you silence the chaos. And that brings us to a greater truth still to come. What if the key to real power isn't in what you resist, but in what you become while resisting? Let's step into that in the next chapter, where we'll uncover how silence doesn't just protect peace, it multiplies purpose. Let time speak for you. Finale. You will not be remembered for how loud you shouted back. You won't be honored for how clever your insult was, or how quickly you put someone in their place. No, you'll be remembered for your composure, for the way you held your ground with grace, for the way you walked away with dignity still intact, while others tried to bait you into battles far beneath your calling. Because that's real victory. The victory of knowing who you are so deeply, so securely, that you don't need to fight for your identity. You simply live it. So the next time you're disrespected, the next time someone throws shade or spits words designed to wound, don't see silence as weakness. See it as rising above. See it as standing on higher ground, where the air is clear and your vision is sharp. There's a strength in patience that most never discover, a quiet authority in letting time do what words never could. You see, the people who insult you more often than not, they aren't seeking reconciliation. They aren't looking for truth. They're reacting from ego, from fear, from the desperate need to feel bigger by making someone else feel small. And if you meet them on that battlefield, where chaos and pride clash, you've already surrendered something far more valuable than a win. You've given away your peace. You've allowed noise to disrupt your mission. But when you stay calm, when you don't flinch, when you don't even blink in their direction, you confuse them, you humble them, and most of all, you disarm them. Because silence doesn't just protect your peace, it reveals their brokenness. It leaves them alone with their words. And sometimes, that's all it takes for them to finally hear themselves. So don't rush to correct every lie. Don't waste your breath proving your worth to people who were never qualified to measure it in the first place. Because truth is timeless, and time is undefeated. Time will show who was real. Time will expose what was false. Time will reveal what your words never had to say. And when that time comes, when the dust settles and the noise dies down, those who tried to bury you in doubt will have no choice but to witness your rise. Not because you shouted, not because you fought back, but because you kept going, quietly, steadily, faithfully. You let your progress speak. You let your peace shine. You let your life preach the sermon your mouth never had to deliver. So yes, let them underestimate you. Let them throw stones. Let them whisper doubts behind your back. Because what they can't do is stop what's already been ordained for you. They can't erase the purpose placed over your life. They can't outrun the favor that follows your obedience. And in the end, when the fruit appears, when the vision is fulfilled, when the mountain is finally climbed, you won't have to say a word. Your success, your endurance, your silence will say it all. And so I leave you with this truth. The loudest reply to disrespect is not your voice, it's your victory. Let time do the talking. And while it does, you keep becoming